Okay, let's roll into our race winner for the 51st running of the Coca-Cola 600, and it's Kurt Busch. He drives the number 2 Miller Lite Vortex Dodge for Penske Racing. This is his 22nd career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series victory, his second win in a points race in 2010. Back-to-back weekends winning here at Charlotte. Kurt, it's got to feel good for you.
Yeah, this has been a dream come true to be able to wrap up this special weekend and to put a bow on it with this Coca-Cola 600 win. It's a prestigious race. It's a tough race. And most of all, it's a team race. This was a fantastic job by my guys that battled all day long to keep me up front. I don't know what our worst running position was, but I can't say that it was worse than 5th or 6th maybe, because of great pit stops, great calls by Steve Addington and Dave Winston, my guys. This was a race for the ages. To have a car as good as it was in the daytime, I was afraid of it at night. I didn't know if it was going to be able to give me the handle like it had early on in the race. And it played out in our favor. I'm speechless in the fact that we swept both races. But it's an unbelievable weekend for Miller Lite and their Vortex bottle. You know, big Memorial Day weekend for all of our troops and everybody out there supporting us, giving us our freedom. I thought about those guys all day long, and when you're out there racing your heart out and you see things come your way, you just have to thank the Lord as well, and things fell into our hands, especially at the end, to get a caution, to get a quick adjustment, and make our car even better. But, you know, McMurray kept us honest. You know, he was right there at the end. It wasn't like we faded back into the pack. He just separated himself from the pack to come and get us. And he taught me a couple things about my line. I needed to adjust it, and it helped us stay out in front of him at the end. So real happy that we were able to bring this home, especially for Dodge. We're going to celebrate big with Memorial Day with Miller Lites tomorrow, and then when the Dodge dealerships open up, when Kurt wins, you win. Hopefully this guy, so whoever signed up is going to get a Dodge Challenger. So happy to bring that home for somebody.
Sounds great. Okay, we'll take questions now for Kurt Busch. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll start over here with Jim and then go to Joe. Go ahead.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer. Kurt, I think it was while you were celebrating still on the track, you said over your radio that we get to go into the real victory lane at Charlotte. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's hollow ground to get to stand where some of the greats have stood. And over the years with the All-Star race, they bring a big trailer out on the front straightaway. And it's great to celebrate out on the front straightaway, old school style, like you would do on a Saturday night show. That's what it makes you feel like the Saturday night shootout in a late model race, and you're right there with the fans. But when you go into hollowed ground, when you go into victory lane at Charlotte, I've missed out on a couple poles and never got to taste it, never got to feel it. It was very special to drive the Miller Lite Dodge in there today, to drive the car that I was driving 600 miles, to drive it in there. It was pretty special.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Menzer, NASCAR.com. Kurt, could you just talk about getting Roger his first win in the Coca-Cola 600? And I take it he wasn't here. Is that right? I didn't see him. I know he was in Indy.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday, wished him luck for this weekend, and I told him last Thursday that we missed the pole by 0.04 of a second, but I'm going to try not to let you down in the big show. And he said he'd be watching on TV. I was a bit puzzled. I was just hoping that he'd be celebrating up at Indy with the big win. But, Roger's an amazing individual. I'm happy to race for him and to bring him home wins, especially on a day like today when he didn't get it in Indy and we beat a Ganassi car today to win it. That's something pretty special. And I keep saying the word special because it's just the 600 is really, really something that I think of the greats that have this style trophy sitting in their case. And my team helped me do that today. And to beat a Ganassi car, McMurray, those guys kept us honest. He was in the mix. And if I could say anything, I'd say Ganassi should give McMurray a raise and pay that man.
Let's go to the press box for questions for Kurt Busch. Go ahead.
There you go. Monty Dutton, Gaston is it. Kurt, since you won the championship, you've had a lot of wins, a lot of solid showings. You've been a competitor. But, putting these races back to back, sort of makes you, at least for this moment in time, the guy? I mean, Johnson's having trouble. Before this one, your brother in Hamlin had swapped for races. But, I mean, putting these races together, it kind of puts you for the first time since 2004 in a position where people are going to say maybe this guy's the favorite for the championship.
Well, it's tough because I'm not one to go out there with the big flash and the big flare. I used to early on. I'd run my head up against the wall. I'd run my race car up against the wall, and reviews came in negative. And for me, that's not how I wanted to be remembered and how I wanted to be looked at, sitting there on the porch talking with my grandkids about things. And that 2003 taught me a lot. 2004 backed up what I was thinking for my mindset. And so you go out there, and a guy like Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, those kind of guys I learned a lot from at Roush Racing when I was having my troubles. And I look up to those guys tremendously. And, you know, those guys don't get a lot of that flash or flare or recognition, but they're one of the greats in our sport. And a weekend like this, you know, walking in here today, I looked at this ring, and I've got the ring from last weekend. We're going to make a big team ring on the Charlotte Sweep weekend and give it to all the Penske Racing employees and commemorate what special meaning this means to be able to dominate on 2 weekends like this in Charlotte. And it ranks right up there with one of the championship emotions that I had back in 2004.
Stay upstairs. Another question for Kurt Busch. Go ahead.
Yes, Kurt. This is Don Culber with Morris News Service. It's been a pretty good month for your family. What is this, something like that, 6 in a row now with between you and your brother, and who has the better chance to continue the streak next week?
Well, we both do. I liked our chances with the way that our team's clicking. Those guys were strong the last few weeks, like at Richmond and then Dover. You know, Darlington, he was strong as well. But for us, our game right now, this team's clicking on all 8 cylinders. And we just have to keep going, finding new things to make our Dodges faster. If I had to say who had the better chance at me and Kyle winning, I love Pocono. But right now, we've been doing good on tracks that I struggle on. So I'm going to just say that I struggle on all the racetracks coming up, so that we don't beat ourselves.
Stay upstairs, press box. Another question for Kurt Busch.
Tony Bowler, Courier Tribune. Kurt, you talked a little bit about this. 2 questions. First, could you comment on the what you told your team over the radio about sweeping the checkbook here at Charlotte, and also for a guy who does struggle here to have such a great weekend, what does this say for you and your team the rest of the way?
Well, it means that we're having another pizza party and another beer and pizza party on during this week. It's a week of celebration. It's a week of some more hard work. We have to continue to stay focused and to get everything as good as we can make it for the next week. And I might have forgot the second part of your question, but the way that we just have to stay focused and celebrate this week when we can, and then get on it with Pocono next week. We'll just have to continue on.
Another question upstairs for Kurt. Go ahead.
Kurt, this is Thomas Pope from the Fayetteville Observer. How have you guys been able to run as well as you have been, the one Dodge team out there, instead of having anybody else to really share stuff with, like with RPM last year?
You know, it's fun. It's a great relationship that I have with Ralph Giles, our CEO at Dodge, and the engineers that give us the support from up there in Detroit that work closely with Steve Addington and our guys. Tom Drummond, our lead engineer back at the race shop. You know, to put all your eggs in one basket and to look at it and to have the skeptics think that it was going to put us behind. You know, it's a fight. Don't get me wrong. I feel like sometimes we're out on an island, but we're out there, and it feels good to have those guys on our side.